Oh. Well. Oh, hey, sick. I actually need this. Oh, and very quickly, just to like really hammer this point down, because I've only ever done a single cast of this every single time, I just want to show you what it looks like when I spam Blight on this character, because remember, you can stack multiple Blights per target. I think it's up to like a maximum of 10. I forget how many Blights you can stack, but watch what happens when I do this. That's too much. That shouldn't be in the game, huh? Well, it turns out that they've added a ton of very, very interesting affixes, most notably things that you can temper onto your gear in the PTR. And I already found one that's just so insanely powerful that it actually made me think that a build was outputting like 10 times its damage, and it's almost certainly due to a bug. So I want to walk people through it because this is a completely new mechanic that I wanted to better understand and why it was making my Infinimus build so wildly powerful. So the thing that I'm talking about is very specifically the lucky hit chance up to a 40% chance to deal shadow damage. Now, the structure of this affix is already pretty weird. What does plus 30,000 shadow damage even mean? Well, to be able to understand that, let's go ahead and just take a look at Blight, the skill, the thing that I'm using to proc it, since it has a decent lucky hit chance. And let's start talking about the mechanics of the effect itself and what happens if you put it on multiple pieces of gear. For this character, I basically don't have a lot of other things that are going to be changing our damage or proccing stuff. I've removed Shadow Blight from my skill tree, so we're not going to be seeing that damage. I removed Crippling Darkness, we're not going to be seeing that damage. And I just wanted to show you Blight the skill with the Ebonpiercer Amulet not equipped, as well as X-Falls not equipped, and neither one of the original proc skills, just so you can get an idea of what this skill does. You shoot out a Blight Bolt. It deals an instantaneous amount of damage, that's why I can crit at the start, and then it deals shadow damage over time in the Blight pool. Pretty simple dimple. Over to the right, you'll see the instance of damage, that's why it's white, and when it crits, yellow. And then the damage over time here, if you can't really see it, it is like slightly grayer than that damage, and that's what the skill is meant to do. Pretty normal. Let's go ahead and get a look at what the lucky hit chance proc looks like. You basically want to be looking at the left side of this little dummy, and you're going to see a much smaller, probably like 6-digit amount of damage. That's also that white color, meaning that's an instance of damage as opposed to damage over time. So we have like a pretty decent amount of lucky hit chance here. I have 25%, so it's not that high, but I'm missing a ton of the gear pieces because they would interrupt the results here. But we have up to a 40% chance. I have a lucky hit chance of 56%. Let's just call it 50. That basically means 1 in every 5 Blights should proc this one time. So if I were to cast Blight, again, we want to be looking over here, and I'll basically just skip the video forward until we actually see the proc happen. So let me use the power of editing for you. All right, it was very hard to see. Maybe I can get it in slow-mo for you. But when I initially cast Blight against the target, immediately you saw that 6-digit, I think it was like 157,000 damage, which is pretty great. This thing triggering for 157,000 damage is actually kind of nutty. You know, if we're looking at 30,000 shadow damage here versus X-Falls, which gets up to a whopping 20,000, and then obviously it would get stronger and stronger, but it's a pretty decent roll for the X-Falls, so this is already theoretically outperforming it. And considering it is lucky hit chance 40%, it's pretty close to that lucky hit chance over here, and it can trigger from things that aren't shadow damage over time. Actually, the funny part about this is that this trigger right here might actually just be stronger than X-Falls straight out, which is worrisome, but we'll worry about that in a different video. But what happens if I equip 2 pieces of gear that both have this effect? Well, luckily, based off of the testing I've already done, it should take the 2 damage numbers and put them together. So rather than rolling 2 separate 40% chances, it basically says roll a 40% chance, and if you successfully trigger it, you add this amount of shadow damage to this amount of shadow damage, which gives us a whopping 51,275 shadow damage. So let me just go ahead and show you that. Again, I'm going to use the power of editing here so we don't have to sit here and wait, but I'm going to cast Blight and see when it procs. Immediately, first one, didn't even have to edit it. You'll notice that we did 715,000 damage. That's pretty big. It turns out that if you add on a solid 66% additional base damage, you're gonna vastly increase the amount of damage that you're doing. On top of the fact, obviously I also have like another weapon on, so I have higher damage, etc., etc. It's to be expected, but it's doing a ton of damage here, and that's pretty great. Here's the problem. When you add on Ebonpiercer, Blight now does something very cool. I'm going to show you this without these effects on, just so you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. But Ebonpiercer makes it so that when I cast Blight, it's going to shoot out additional projectiles. The other projectiles are different than the normal Blight projectile, because when I cast Blight, it leaves behind a pool. Whereas when I cast Blight, the other projectiles actually just pierce through everything. The interesting part about that is that since they all pierce, they can also shotgun. That means that all 5 of these bolts could hit a single target. So if I were to walk up to the training dummy right here, get right in its face, a ton of the bolts all pass through him. I think I got about 4 of them. And what you're noticing is that we have a huge amount of additional shadow damage over time at the start that falls off. Because these bolts only deal damage over 3 seconds, Blight is going to deal damage over 6 seconds. So for the first 3 seconds, we're getting a huge amount of additional damage over time, and then it drops back down to just the normal Blight damage. That's all cool. So 5 additional bolts. Typically in this game, whenever a skill would trigger a unique effect, so think about Deathless Visage here, and I'm glad this does work like I anticipated in my previous video if you watched that, but it carries the properties of that skill. Most notably the lucky hit chance. So each one of these additional bolts can trigger lucky hit chance just as if Blight had hit those targets. And that's going to make it so that we trigger Shadow Blight more quickly, just being able to apply more damage over time. But it should mean that we should trigger X-Falls at a higher rate, and we should also trigger this at a higher rate. The only issue being that this should only trigger once per Blight cast, because that's how it works with the base skill, and adding on more projectiles doesn't make it as if I've hit them with 5 different Blights, or at least that's what I thought. Let me go ahead and toss on both of these weapons with the double lucky hit chance to be able to proc this effect, and then let me cast with Ebonpiercer on, and I just want you to go ahead and take a look at the leftover here on the dummy like we were doing before, and I'll get real close to trigger it off. You'll notice that we are triggering the instance of damage multiple times per each individual bolt that is on the target for the maximum amount of damage over that 3 seconds. That can't be right. That's definitely not how that's supposed to work. I can't imagine why it works that way. For whatever reason, each individual bolt that are added to your Blight cast from Ebonpiercer are able to trigger lucky hit multiple times per bolt, when lucky hit effects typically should only be able to be triggered once per a skill cast, except in instances like Abhorrent Decrepify, which is weirdly bugged right now. So that is absolutely bananas amounts of additional damage, because again, if I take off this amulet, which doesn't really increase my damage in any other way, shape, or form, I do it one time, and I may trigger it over here, do 700,000 damage, you know, no big whoop there. But the moment that I put on Ebonpiercer, I'm now triggering it multiple times per second, doing millions of damage, and that damage isn't even critting. And actually, if you notice here, and I keep casting multiple times, even though this is an instance of damage, it has never crit and it has never overpowered. I don't know why it hasn't crit. It theoretically should be able to crit. In fact, I can give myself a ton of additional crit chance here. So if I were to look at my crit chance, I'm sitting at a whopping 65% crit chance. It just never crits. It only ever does base damage. So not only do I think that that's bugged, I think it should be able to crit, but it is triggering multiple times because of Ebonpiercer. And what this basically means is that Blight is an absolutely insanely strong skill right now. I can only imagine that this is unintentional, that it will get nerfed. But if you hadn't been aware of this, or if you hadn't taken this close of a look, this is probably why your Blight build is outperforming most other things in the game right now as far as DPS is concerned, at least for the Necromancer. So just be aware of that. Oh, also, if I were to turn on, you know, X-Falls as well, you're getting multiple X-Falls procs off of each one. Again, that's not supposed to happen. That's an absolutely insane amount of X-Falls procs per target, since again, all of these projectiles can pierce and hit multiple targets multiple times. So just an absolutely insane amount of damage. Blight's on the menu, boys, or at least until they figure this out and get it fixed for when the season rolls around. Let me know what you think. Do you think it's a bug? Do you think it should do this? Is this what darkness builds needed this entire time? Just a ridiculously insane amount of critical procable damage? Because again, I can turn on a lot more damage instances here and just like do this and just watch millions of damage scroll up my screen with absolutely trash gear on that I haven't even like fully masterwork or tempered to make this even stronger than it could be right now. Sound off down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you've been figuring out some weird mechanics or interactions, please come join the Discord. The link is in the description as well. I'd love to hear from you. We have a testing channel there. We need to collect all of this information and get it over to the devs so that we don't walk into season 4 with an absolutely giant pile of just like broken garbage that everybody inevitably ends up complaining about until it gets fixed in a patch. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that it helped you better understand what's going on in the PTR right now. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one.